The Kazakh wave in the UFC continues to rise, and soon we'll be welcoming the newest flyweight to the UFC ranks, Asu Almabaev. Now, in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over Almabaev's record, a couple of his previous fights, and want to take a look to see how's this guy going to do in the UFC. Can he hang with the guys at the very top? And what should we even expect from his UFC debut? If you enjoyed the video, definitely subscribe to the channel, like the video. Now let's get started. Now, Asu Almabaev has a 17-2 record, 29 years old, so he's right in the prime of his career. The timing is perfect for him to enter the UFC. He trains with Dar Team Pro in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and he's really competed among a lot of the top promotions in Central Asia and even in the Middle East. So let's take a look at Asu Almabaev's record and see what kind of competition he's been fighting thus far in his career. All right, so there you see Asu Almabaev, and he goes by the nickname Zulfikar. He has a 17-2 record. And let's take a look at some of his stats. So only a couple KO or TKO wins to his record, 3. Submissions are much more likely for him so far in his wins. He's won almost half of all of his fights by submission and 6 by decision. Let's take a look at his record. See, the first handful of fights here over fighters with no fights or maybe just one fight. And then he jumped up and took a fight with Tagir Ulanbekov, who we now know is with the UFC and is ranked in the flyweight division. So very good win there. Lost another one right after that to Imran Magaramov. Has not lost since April of 2017. And he's fought for a lot of really good promotions. Fought for Fight Nights Global, Alash Pride, which is a Kazakh promotion, ACB. He's fought for Berkut Young Eagles, M1 Challenge, Russian promotion. He's fought for Niza FC in Kazakhstan. And then ever since this Niza fight here, he has been fighting with Brave. And overall, the competition of his opponents, some better than others. A lot of these guys less than 10 fights, but then starts to take a step up. See, he's got a win here against Chris Kalidas, who's a very good UFC veteran. Also a win there against Alexander Doskolchuk, Ukrainian guy who was signed to the UFC and had a few fights scheduled, but those fell through and was ultimately released from the promotion. So never actually fought for the UFC, but right at that level. And then see, he's got this split decision win over Zach Makovsky that we will take a look at. And the last couple fights, kind of hit and miss. A couple guys just with a few fights right here and there. A couple others with some pretty good competition. So overall, I would say maybe like a B- in terms of top shelf competition before entering the UFC. Probably some of those situations were issues locking down high quality opponents. I know in this Kenneth Maningat situation, he was supposed to fight someone with a little bit more experience, but that opponent got injured during fight week, so they had to shift things around. So not totally his fault either. With that ado, we've looked at his record. Now let's take a look at his last 3 fights. I'm not going to watch all the fights in their completion since 2 of them go the full distance, but I'll kind of skip around, highlight a couple things, and the goal is to try and see what are Asu Almabaev's strengths? What are his weaknesses? What are some things that he's been working on and improving on? And what kind of fighter will he be at the point of his UFC debut? Let's take a look. So this first fight that we're going to take a look at was against Imran Magaramov. He is from Azerbaijan. And this fight took place in March of 2022 at Brave CF57 in Bahrain. So I always like seeing how a fighter starts the opening seconds of their fight. What kind of strikes they throw. Right away, Almabaev throws a calf kick against Magaramov. All right, and then Almabaev goes for the spinning back kick and then drops right down for a double leg. He's able to land the double leg, changes levels really well, drops down very quickly, has no issues getting it to the ground, although he does find himself in the full guard of Magaramov. Magaramov in this fight has a pretty good jiu-jitsu game, pretty good at keeping Almabaev in his guard. If there's one criticism that I have against Almabaev is that he often settles too easily into a full guard position and has sometimes struggled to pass the guard into a dominant position. He does make a little bit of progress in this regard as the fights go on, and I'll point that out to you, but in this fight he has a lot of trouble getting to a better position. He sometimes just kind of hangs out here, doesn't throw a whole lot of meaningful offense from this guard position. Magaramov, to his credit, is doing a really good job at controlling the posture of Almabaev and locking down his arms, so it's not totally his fault. He's got a good jiu-jitsu game, but overall this fight is pretty it's a pretty slow fight and not a lot of heavy damage. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to round 2 so you can kind of see how things start off in the second round. All right, so here we are starting round 2 against Imran Magaramov. Let's see if Almabaev tries to go for the takedown again. He goes for that spinning back kick. He really likes that spinning back kick. I noticed him throw it a lot against all 3 opponents that we'll look at today. Sometimes it lands really well, other times not so much. But with a guy who, and there he lands it really nicely, with a guy who has really no fear of being planted on his back, as Almabaev's wrestling is really good, he has a lot of confidence throwing that spinning back kick, because the problem, which we'll see in a second, okay, I'm going to pause right here. So notice how earlier I pointed out that Asu Almabaev basically took Magaramov to the ground and kind of sat out in the full guard for a while. One way that you can pass to a better position isn't even by actually passing, but it's by getting the fight back up to the feet and then taking down your opponent and allowing the pass to happen as you're taking the opponent to the ground. So we see Almabaev attempt that here. Notice his foot position. He's going for the trip here, and he has stepped to the left of Magaramov's right leg. This way, once he gets the fight to the ground, he'll automatically be in half guard position. Let's take a look and see him get the fight down. So he's able to drag him down, and there you see very nice right back into a half guard position. Now he has a little bit more leeway to try and land some damage or pass to a better position. Keeps positions usually pretty tight, but there lets a little bit of space in there, and Magaramov able to slide his knee in and pull him back into a full guard. So honestly, that's pretty much where the rest of this round unfolds. I'm going to go ahead and skip to the third round so we can see what kind of adjustments Almabaev makes. All right, here we go, round 3. Fight has been a shutout so far for Asu Almabaev, although hasn't really landed a whole lot of offense, except for, honestly, that spinning kick. He's gone for it a couple times, and there he briefly gave it his back. Magaramov had a brief chance, but kind of slipped, made a mistake, and now he ends up on his back. And again, we are right back here with a stalemate. Almabaev having trouble passing or landing a lot of offense. Magaramov honestly doing well defensively, but hasn't really made a whole lot of effort to stand back up or offer offense of his own. So that's why we just kind of hang out here. And skipping ahead about a minute, we do actually get a stand-up from the ref, which is definitely well appreciated by the fans. Sometimes Almabaev can get a little bit lazy leaving that hand on the mat. Fortunately, Magaramov is not offering up a lot of submission attempts, so this isn't really going to affect Almabaev's danger of being submitted. But yes, the ref goes ahead and stands up the fight. And Almabaev really has no reason to change anything about his strategy. He's got this fight in the bag. Round's almost halfway over of round 3. See him switching stance a couple times. But Where are the hands of Almabaev? He really has hardly tried to throw any hands at all in this whole fight, at least on the feet. And Magaramov, again, makes a huge lapse in fight IQ there and goes for a spinning back kick, giving up his back against a guy that is really, really good at getting the fight to the ground. And now we have Almabaev on top and inside control, and that is really tight. Briefly thought about going for a shoulder lock there, but Almabaev, really high takedown defense. There you saw him go get the body lock and get the fight to the ground after Magaramov gave up his back with the spinning back kick. But really, Almabaev is not a guy to give up a whole lot of ground. He's very tight with things. He has a very high takedown success rate. Honestly, I would pick him to take down just about anybody, even in the UFC's flyweight division. He's fought some pretty good wrestlers and usually is the better wrestler. So we'll see that in the next fight. But yeah, Almabaev just cruising here, going back and forth between side and full mount. What's he really trying to do? Is he just trying to control this until the end of the fight, or is he actually trying to go for a finishing move? That's what I'm wondering here is what's his MO, because he doesn't really come across to me as a guy that is going to be trying to finish the fight with ground and pound like a lot of maybe Dagestani guys would that use that style. He's throwing up punches, but not necessarily anything that's meant to actually end the fight. Not saying that they don't hurt or that they don't have some kind of effect, but he's not really that kind of guy that's just going to smash you on the ground. Like we saw earlier, only 3 TKO wins out of his 19 fights. So not to say he couldn't do that in the future, but so far we haven't really seen that from him. And Imran Magaramov pulls him back into guard. Was never really able to do much with his better positions. So, and look at this right here. This is really interesting to me. Normally in this position, you'd think trying to move the feet off to the side, pass to a better position, but Almabaev kind of just sits down in the full guard. Again, a little bit too comfortable to settle for positions that aren't really going to yield a finish. He does get a little bit better with this in time, but for now, this is just about 18 months ago this fight took place, so still just kind of struggling with guys who have a really good jiu-jitsu game, but this fight is a wash for Almabaev. He wins the fight by unanimous decision. All right, now this next fight is Asu Almabaev's second most recent fight against the UFC veteran and 39-year-old American Zach Makovsky. This fight took place at Brave CF 60 in July of 2022, about a year ago, and this took place in Bahrain. Makovsky, over a decade older than Almabaev, and this is a really tricky fight for Almabaev, which he eventually wins by split decision. There you see Almabaev going for the low calf kick on Makovsky, the exact strike that he opened his last fight with. Could make a whole video on this fight because there's a lot of really amazing techniques and tactics employed by both fighters. Very close fight, but I'll just kind of highlight a couple things that I find most noteworthy. Almabaev continuing to go for those low calf kicks. Makovsky, a really strong wrestler, huge guy for 125 pounds, UFC veteran. Potentially Almabaev's toughest test so far. You'll see him go for that low calf kick a lot in this fight. Also goes for the spinning back kick. Also introduces a rear uppercut against Makovsky, which sometimes works, a lot of times does not. Makovsky, for his credit, a southpaw, tags Almabaev with a straight left several times in this fight. Overall, you'll see Almabaev usually getting the better of the wrestling exchanges, which is very impressive against Makovsky. Makovsky slightly getting the better of the striking exchanges. Makovsky using that straight left also to the body as well. Honestly, Almabaev just hasn't really shown a whole lot of reason to fear his hands yet. So Makovsky feeling like he can throw a lot of volume at Almabaev without too much of a fear of countering. You'll see Almabaev sometimes go for like a counter right hand, counter right hook. But as his career continues, that's something I'll be very interested to see how that develops, if he's able to bring his hands along to match the power of his wrestling and grappling. So we're a little bit of a stalemate right now. Both guys just trying to throw some reads, see what each other will bite on. Both guys really good grapplers. So ultimately, you know, each guy feels like he can probably have his way if the fight hits the ground. But there, Almabaev goes for a kind of jumping body kick, which lands a little bit and eventually tries to set up that rear uppercut, which misses on Makovsky. And there he lands that spinning back kick that he loves so much, and it seemed to land pretty well. Makovsky almost faked the takedown there. Might have actually been trying to go for it, but Almabaev wise to it. Spinning back kick again from Almabaev, and the low calf kick. Honestly, I wouldn't say Almabaev has a lot of thinking about which weapons he has at his disposal to fight on the feet. It's mostly just that low calf kick, the spinning back kick, and a few other things. I mean, he's attempting the rear uppercut, he's attempting the counter right hand, but the ones that land the most are those two kicks. And there Makovsky runs forward, starting with a double, eventually transitioning to a single leg, trying to get the fight to the mat. Let's see how Almabaev's takedown defense is against an elite wrestler. Very good, pulls the hands back up to the chest and gets the reversal. Really, really impressive against a guy like Makovsky. And this is one of the things that makes me think that he's not going to find very many guys who can out-wrestle him, even in the UFC's flyweight division. He doesn't necessarily strike you as like a hulking, massive flyweight, but he is in very good condition. I've never really seen him get that tired. And look at this takedown. Goes for the double leg, moves it more to the center of the cage, and dumps him. Now let's see how he lands. It's like he kind of landed in the full guard. He transitioned to the half guard because he realized that need to be in a better position. But Makovsky taking advantage of the shift in balance and gets the sweep on Almabaev. So let's see how long Almabaev actually spins off of his back. I don't really fault him a whole lot for falling to Makovsky in that way, because Makovsky is really good, and Almabaev able to drive through and gets the sweep. So very action-packed round one. A lot of good moments for each guy, but a very close round. Let's hop ahead to round two. All right, so here we go, round two. Just gonna show you the first little bit of the round before we move forward. Also, this is a very, very interesting round, a lot going on. I would say track down this fight if you want to watch it in whole. It's totally worth your time. As for the attack of Almabaev last round, he was mostly relying on the kicks. Some counters, didn't really initiate the takedowns, but reacted to the wrestling attack of Makovsky with takedowns of his own, and looked pretty good doing it. Was able to get out of anything Makovsky threw his way. A lot of the stuff going up top is being blocked by Makovsky. Nice little counter left there. You see he switched to the southpaw stance and threw a nice jab at Makovsky. Watch this strike coming up. He goes for the uppercut, the rear uppercut on Makovsky, but his feet were out of position, and Makovsky ducks under and is able to surprise Almabaev with that takedown. But there he goes, shucks his hips out, right back to his feet. Then Makovsky tries to go for the trip, stuffed by Almabaev. Just such a hard guy to control, even with a guy like Makovsky. If he can't really do it, then I don't know how many guys can, to be honest. And here we are, right back in the center of the cage. All right, let's hop ahead to round 3. All right, here we go, round 3. This has been a very taxing fight on both guys. Wouldn't say either guy is tired, but they have been working their asses off. Hard to know who is ahead at this point of the fight. Both guys keeping it pretty even. Not a lot of like really intense damage landed by either side. Neither guy controlling the other one for really any sustained period of time, so it makes it really hard to score. Almabaev going for the calf kick again. A great attack against a wrestler, trying to slow him down. Switches stance. Sometimes I start to wonder if Asu Almabaev is starting to run out of weapons, especially in this third round, once Makovsky has kind of learned his game. I don't think that Almabaev has had a lot of success with damage in this third round so far. If you listen to the commentary on this fight, by the end of the round, they're kind of noting that if you're going to give any fighter a round and feel confident about it, it's probably going to be Makovsky in this third round. So he's able to land definitely the more volume on Almabaev. And you see him kind of leaping in there with some strikes, blocking Almabaev's attacks. Almabaev at this point really just has the low kick, the spinning back kick. There you see Almabaev tried to go for a takedown, but Makovsky easily sprawls. So this is a very tough round. He kind of tried to go for the rear uppercut once again, but Makovsky backs away. Going for that same back kick. He's just kind of alternating between the same couple strikes. So that's something I really want to watch in the UFC, is what kind of weapons does he have, and especially on the feet, and is he able to actually surprise his opponents? Again, he tried to go for a takedown, but Makovsky, wise to it, gets the reversal. A very difficult round for Almabaev, and there you see him take a big deep breath. Not necessarily, again, that he's tired, but just trying to pace himself, stay at the same level as Makovsky. So ultimately, I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next fight, but ultimately, Almabaev does win this fight by split decision. Find the fight, watch it for yourself. It's a really, really good fight. All right, now this is Asu Almabaev's most recent fight. This is against Filipino Kenneth Maningat. This was at Brave CF 66 in November of 2022. This took place in Bali, Indonesia. Good gracious, who turned out the lights? That is a very dark cage in there. But like I said earlier, Almabaev was supposed to fight someone else that with a little bit more experience. That fight fell out, and so that's why we're getting him fight Maningat, who I would say is a little below Almabaev's level, but he definitely holds good account of himself, tries his absolute best. Almabaev going for low kicks, thinks about the spin there. Very interesting that he's started all 3 of the fights that we watched together with the low kick and the spinning back kick. Makes me wonder if we're going to see that this weekend in the UFC. Maningat has a really nice jab. There he catches Almabaev. And Almabaev goes for that spinning back kick, lands on Maningat. I guess if it keeps landing, why stop? But there you see Almabaev go for the single leg takedown and sits down in the full guard of Maningat. Maningat's going to open and close his guard throughout this fight. Overall, against previous opponents that we've watched, he's a lot more offensive off of his back. Like I said, opens his guard a lot, uses the butterfly hooks a lot, and tries to go potentially for some submissions or sweeps, but Almabaev is just way too good on top, way too good at keeping control. But credit to Maningat for trying to really take it to Almabaev and potentially get a stoppage, even throwing some punches off of his back. One thing that I do like in this fight for Almabaev is that he seems to be a lot more offensive on top with the punches. Seems like he is able to get a little bit more distance and land much heavier in previous fights that we've watched. So that's really great to see. There you see Maningat kind of maneuvering Almabaev around a little bit. Sometimes when you have fighters like this, and I also saw this with Zach Makovsky, when they're sort of on the verge of being signed by the UFC, they're really trying to make these statement performances. And so I wonder if that's what was on Almabaev's mind when this fight was taking place, is really making that statement win to lock in his spot with the UFC. That's why he may be a little bit more offensive and aggressive than usual. So Maningat has the open guard against Almabaev. Really, it's like wide open at some points for Almabaev to step over and pass. And there he's able to go to the side of Maningat. Very nice. Takes the side control. Maningat really trying to get back guard, trying to shrimp and slide his knee in at times. But let's see what Almabaev can do. Very uncomfortable position for Maningat. Just kind of plopping his knee on the gut. Going for some punches from side control. And there you go. Maningat able to pull him back into half guard and eventually back into full guard by sliding his knee through. He's got some really fast hips. So really job well done by Kenneth Maningat there for getting back to guard from a pretty bad position. Although doesn't help much if you can't get back to your feet. You don't want to just lie on your back like that. But look at that. You see Almabaev trying to stand a little bit more. He's posturing up, which is great to see. Better than just standing there or sitting there in the full guard, whether you're using it for punches or to try and pass to a better position. Great to see and there you see Almabaev trying to slide off to the right, sliding a knee through. So we're seeing some advancements in Almabaev's game here. Definitely not worth judging him by his last fight. Much better success passing to dominant positions. So let's skip ahead to round 2 where things get interesting. All right, now we've got round 2, the last round that we will watch together on this tape study. Almabaev thinks about going for the spinning back kick. Maningat backs away. Instead, he goes for the low kick and whiffs on a big punch, but clinches up against the cage. You know he's going to get it to the ground here. Very nice. Drives through, but finds himself in full guard. Maningat most likely didn't like those punches and elbows from the first round, so he's really trying to control the posture of Almabaev. Look at those. Those are really hard strikes. Those are not stay busy so the ref doesn't stand me up strikes. Those are really big punches that could really cause some big damage on Maningat. So really nice work there by Almabaev. Even in the half guard, which is a good position, but like not the absolute best position to land heavy strikes, he's managing to land some really big punches from a really short distance. He's not even standing up, getting a lot of range on these punches, but you see him go to the body, go to the head, switching sides. He's going to do that over and over for a little bit. And he could sit here all day. The ref's not going to stand him up while he's landing these big punches. Maningat was wincing in pain there from those punches when he went to the body. You know, those are hurting a lot. So good to see Almabaev really find some areas that he can inflict some real punishment on his opponents. There's some nasty like forearm elbow strikes. Surprised those didn't cut the head of Maningat. Those were nasty. Either way, though, we're still in the full guard, and ideally would be great to see Almabaev keep up this offense from a more dominant position. So there you see Maningat opens his guard and Almabaev stands. What's he going to do? Is he going to go right back into the top? So Might have been a little bit of a missed opportunity there to try to slide off to one side. Maybe Almabaev just feels comfortable and like he can finish the fight from there. Can't speak for him, but personally I would have tried to get off to one side as I watch from my couch. Yeah, really nice stuff here from Almabaev. We'll see him transition to the half guard right there. He just steps right over into the half guard, but then pulled back into the full guard. Maningat locked down Almabaev's left arm, which is trapped on the mat. Not a lot that you can do just punching with one hand, but Almabaev explodes out. Tries to step over, tries to just make it happen, and he does. Sometimes you just gotta impose your will. So here we go. Look at this beautiful back take as Maningat tries to roll. Gets one hook in. He's gonna try and set up the choke here. Forces the other hook in and immediately sinks in the choke. Arches the back, and there is the tap and the first finish, which led to the first finish in quite some time for Almabaev, but that is what won Asu Almabaev his UFC contract. All right, so there you have it. A nice little overview of Asu Almabaev's MMA skills, some things that you may want to look for in his fight with O'Day Osborne at UFC Nashville. As for how that fight might go, it's hard to predict, and this isn't necessarily a breakdown of that fight. Overall, I think that we'll probably see Asu Almabaev get his first UFC win, most likely by decision, could be by a late submission like rear naked choke, potentially in round 3. Overall, I think that O'Day Osborne could give Asu Almabaev some trouble. His range could be an issue if he's able to work his jab. O'Day Osborne has fought a lot of guys in the UFC and has a very high finishing rate and a couple wins by triangle choke. So could we see him give Asu Almabaev a little bit of trouble if he finds himself on his back, which he most definitely will at some points of his fight? Because, let's be honest, this fight is absolutely going to go to the ground at some point. Asu Almabaev is going to get that takedown. It's just a matter of time. But overall, I think Almabaev will be successful in the UFC. He's going to need to add a couple weapons to his arsenal, especially on the feet. He's going to need to bring his hands along if he wants to compete with a lot of the top flyweights in the division. But I think he could get there. We need to see him successfully and regularly compete against high level and ranked flyweights in the UFC to really know, is that going to push him to round out his game? But on the ground, especially in wrestling, he is unmatched, and I think that he's going to have his way with pretty much everybody in the division, maybe a few exceptions. What do you think? What are you expecting from Asu Almabaev in the UFC? Do you think right now he has what it takes to be a top-ranked contender, or do you think that that's going to have to come in time as he develops his game? I'm really looking forward to seeing what he will do in the UFC. And for me, at MMA Ecosystem, talk to you next time and enjoy the fights this weekend.